the something you know factor is called type 1 authentication factor. Something you have is called type 2 authentication factor. And something you are is also called type 3 authentication factor. And now, since these three factors are very common and with a lot of correlation available, your context can also be established. That means the location where you are, your behavior pattern of accessing a website or something, wherein a context can be established between your pattern and the subject. That kind of a factor is called somewhere you are. Somewhere you are. That means contextual factor. Okay, you are authorized to access your bank account only if you are in India. The moment you go outside and you access from some other IP address, bank may not allow you. So the bank's access control is aware of the context where you are. Okay, that's such kind of factors are called contextual factors. Okay, and that's why the concept of contextual aware authentication has come. Okay, at times, the mobile device management systems, they control from where you are accessing. Okay, just to give you a simple example, say if you are working with Accenture India and you are logging into Accenture India systems, the moment you say and you are working remotely, and then one day you plan that, okay, I don't want to work from India, let's go to Bahamas, sit there and work, job is there. So you go there and you try to access a system. Your mobile device manager is aware of your geographical location and doesn't give you access. Why? Because companies generally geo-reference or geo-fence the mobile device, that is your laptop, that it should work only. Why? Because of privacy data concerns. Okay, it might so happen that you are accessing systems of privacy data of a particular region, and moment you have gone to some other region where the privacy data may not be applicable, then your access has to be denied. And that's why the access is denied. My own brother, lost his job with Accenture because there was an emergency at home. He asked for leave and they didn't give him leave. So he brought a lot of VPN equipment, established a VPN at his home and a VPN here, and accessed his home internet through sitting here where right now I'm sitting. Nobody could judge because IP address was the US address. But what happened was, India has a habit of dogs barking every night. And his team members, his team leads, could make out that, he has moved to India. And that's how, well, he was about to quit his job in case he left. Right. So this is context-aware systems. And most of the MDM devices provide this context-aware facility. Right. Something, most easiest to break, and you need to have a complex password. All of us know that it should not be, you should not be able to guess it. You should be able to rotate it. It should be as long as possible, and should not be able to quickly discover. Major threats for such factors are, guessing. Anybody can guess your password. Brute forcing, right? Trying all the sequence possible. Okay. Rainbow table attacks. What are rainbow tables? Hackers, what they do, they hack multiple systems using well-known passwords and then create a hash directory for such things and make it freely available, which makes other hackers to hack the passwords. Okay, so these are the very common attacks on such factors. Okay, and that's why to control this particular factor, you need to have a password policy in your organization, right? And password policies generally have, what is the length, and you enforce it using a lot of some places you have Active Directory where you can enforce password policy. You can have, solutions like RMM tools such as Manage Engine, okay, which enforce your policy at user access level. Okay. Now, if you look at certain frameworks for password management, NIST and PCI DSS have a password management policy in their framework. Okay, PCI DSS tells that, the password should expire in 90 days. So wherever passwords are used in PCI DSS process, it should get expired in 90 days. Okay, NIST has a requirement of expiry in 60 days and should be complex. So this is could know, not required, right? And next you have the factor of something you have. As I told you, something you have is something you have physically or logically. Okay. You can have a small RFC device like UB keys. You must have seen UB keys. Like you can use UB keys for having it as a second factor authentication. I just want to show you. Okay. So this is something called UB key. So instead of this is supposed to be very secure, and this helps you in creating a multi-factor authentication. Okay. So if you are there was a company for which I was consulting, which had roughly 30 people, and they didn't want to spend too much money on security measures. I bought 30 of these and, issued each and every one of them, right? And everything was pretty okay, actually. Never access got hacked, and it was a multi-million-dollar crypto exchange. Okay. And all the AWS, their entire exchange was running on AWS, and the guys who had access to AWS, I gave everyone 30 of these and registered them. So I could easily monitor who is accessing the accounts, and I could easily audit it. Because when I asked the company to spend certain amount of money for establishing identity access management system, they said, "Oh, we don't have the funds." I said, "Fine. If you don't have the funds, then the risk is yours." Then they said, "What is the alternative?" I said, "Okay, fine. Buy this $5,000, 30 people, 150,000." Say they bought for everyone and gave it to each one of them. They never took it back. It's still there with me. Right. So this is something you have. Okay. You can have logical OTPs which come on your phones, which can come on your NFC devices. It can be app in which you get the second factor. And then, these are the kind of tokens we have. Okay. Around 10, 15 years back, RSA token was a very, very common token as a multi-factor authentication. What these tokens used to do is they used to generate a random number after every 1 minute or so, like we have it on our authentication, Google Authenticator. But that time, Google Authenticator apps were not there. There were such RSA keys were made available. I saw this with a friend of mine in BT. He was a network engineer, and he used to access the routers of the BT and configure VPNs for different clients, and shift the VPNs and other things. So they would always access the VPN routers using their RSA device. Okay. Now, there are two kinds of such tokens. One is a synchronized token and one is an asynchronous token. Synchronous tokens are generally synchronized with a clock. So there's a clock. It controls the token value. It also has a connection to the server, which is generating the token value at the same time. Okay, if this matches, the access is granted. Then there is something called asynchronous tokens. Asynchronous token don't depend on time. Asynchronous token depends on the algorithm. So RSA, this is the asynchronous token. Why? Because it depends on the public-private key pair. So whatever number is being generated is generated by an algorithm. It is not dependent on time, right? So such tokens are called asynchronous token. And finally, supposed to be the most secure kind of factor is called the something you are. But now with AI coming in, this factor is under threat because certain aspects of a biological appearance can be mimicked or can be created using deepfakes, right? So something you are is a biological factor, such as your fingerprints, your retina scan, your iris scan, eye pupil scan, then you have palm scan. So multiple things. We see it in our daily lives at airports, at immigrations, right? So this is supposed to be the most secure, but it also invades your privacy. Okay, so say your company has a retina scan. A retina scan can reveal a lot of things about you, a lot of physical conditions about you. So most of the organizations do not do retina scan. They just do a normal, normal scan. So such things have privacy concerns. Similarly, if you're given your fingerprint and the fingerprint points get leaked from wherever you have given that means your privacy data has leaked out. So such factors, you will have to consider privacy once you are implementing such factors in your organization anywhere, right? That is the understanding. Right. Any questions till now? Okay, great. So let's go ahead. Now, biometric sensing. Okay, once you do biometric, factors, biometrics has a error rate. They are prone to error. right? Why? Okay, because of the sensitivity of the electronics. At times, if the biometric sensor doesn't have a very good sensitivity, then what will happen is it will give lot of false positives. It will allow a lot of people. Okay, that is bad. Okay, because that means I am not authorized to access the system and I put my fingerprint and the door opens. That means its variance is very wide. Its sensitivity is very low. When the sensitivity is low, that means I will pass many people. But if my sensitivity is very high, okay, I am very sensitive, then there will be a lot of false negatives. Even the authorized people may not be allowed to go because the system is so sensitive that minutest of variance and it will block the access. So from there comes the concept of false negative and false positive. Okay, false positive systems generally are very low sensitivity. False negative systems are high sensitivity. Okay, now what happens? This particular if you want to buy a system, then how do you judge which system is good for you? And that parameter is given by two factors called false rejection rate and false acceptance rate. False rejection rate means that how many incorrect rejections has that access control done, and it is given by false rejection upon total number of valid authentications it have done. False acceptance is how many false people it has allowed to enter, and that factor is given by false positive upon total valid authentications. This kind of factor is called type 1 error, and this type of factor is called type 2 error. Now, once you plot this on a graph, for a given device, you get your false rejection rate and your false acceptance rate. And once you plot it with the sensitivity of the system, you will get a graph like this. The false acceptance ratio generally will decrease with increased sensitivity. As your system becomes sensitive, your false acceptance will reduce because system is becoming very narrow. And as your sensitivity increases, your false rejection increase. Why? Because a lot of good people will also be denied because now the system has become very narrow. And wherever this line meets, that is called the circular error of rejection. Circular, is it circular or crossover? It's called crossover error rate. Now, I remember this question came in my exam, and it had a simple value that it's such a simple question. It had a value like this here. Okay. And they had two maps like this, and another system was at some CER. So they asked which is the better system. Okay. So for that system, the CER was here. It was on the higher side. So we said, obviously, the system with the lower CER would be a better system. Okay. So such simple questions at times come and test your mind. I never prepared for something like that. What are they asking? Then I said, okay, fine. A system which has a lower CER will be a better system than a higher CER. Okay. So, but they gave me two different maps. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that once you plot the false acceptance versus false rejection, wherever they match, the CER defines which system is better. And depending upon the CER, systems with lower CERs will be costlier. System with higher CER will be cheaper. Okay. And that's basically the window. Do you want to be very narrow, or do you want to be very wide, or do you want it somewhere in between within the acceptable range? Okay. And that's called biometric device sensitivity. And this is how you calculate the biometric device sensitivity. Now, once you implement biometric factors in your system, the first thing that you need to do is, the database is empty. You need to first populate the database with the biometric factor, whether fingerprint, palm scan, or iris scan. How much time does the system take to enroll you is called the enrollment time. Okay, time taken to enroll a subject. Then throughput rate is the time taken to scan a subject and decide accept. So now you have given the enrollment has happened. Next time you come, you put the finger and the system is making you wait 2 minutes, 3 minutes. No, that is bad. A good system generally grants you access within 3 to 4 seconds. Enrollment times more than 2 minutes are generally unacceptable. Okay, system should enroll you within 15 to 20 seconds. Then acceptance of a biometric registration is sensitivity of the device to false acceptance. Okay, so if how sensitive it is to false acceptance. Okay, these three parameters define whether you should, what kind of system you want in your organization. Okay, where your biometric data is stored. Okay, it's not stored as a image. It's generally it creates some kind of a reference point. So physically your biometric is like this, but it is created into some digital data. Okay, and this data is called a reference profile. And this reference profile is what gets stored in your database. And when next time you come, it again generates a reference profile and matches the reference profile with the database. If it is somewhere near 90%, 98%, 95%, it gives you access. Okay, and that defines the sensitivity of your biometric device. Enrollment time of over 2 minutes generally is unacceptable for biometric devices. Okay, so this is all I want to cover about the factors. Okay, then I'll come to this is generally very common things. We all now are used to all these things, right?
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe our channel.